Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here with episode 532 of F5 Live, refreshing technology for Sunday, July 21st, 2019. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Russia wants your face. Google has canceled censorship, and Netflix is leaning into originals. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, on any of the podcatchers, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the Podcast Play app in the Windows Store, or of course the myriad of others like TuneIn Radio or Spotify, on any of our live stream platforms, livestream.com, Periscope, Mixer, Twitch, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, or of course on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to f5live.tv/join us, and there you can chat with us in the studio like Craig is on Twitch right now, and give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. If you can't join us live, that's okay. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe will give you all of our shows, including F5 Live and the Piltch Point, plus PLUGHITZ Live Presents, First Looks, and a host of others. With that, I think that's the spiel. Avram, it's been 2 weeks since last week. MetroCon got in the way. How have you been?
Well, it would have gotten in the way for me too, actually, because we put a lot of effort into covering Prime Day, and so, we were giving our readers up-to-the-minute deals, which required me to be, working really long hours.
Yeah.
Between last Saturday and Tuesday, I worked a good 45 hours, something like that. So I from Sunday and Monday I actually stayed over at my office. So, they got me a hotel, but I was in it maybe 3 hours a night for sleep. So, Prime Day is kind of a Super Bowl in that we, a lot of people are buying stuff, and we want to make sure that we have up-to-the-minute coverage of that, and it's, not just Amazon, but all over the place. So,
right.
Yeah. So, what if anything did you buy on the occasion?
For Prime Day, I actually did not spend a penny this year, which is very different for me. For those who are watching live, because you can't see it in the recorded version, the stand that Avram's TV here is on, that I'm holding on to, was purchased on Prime Day a couple of years ago. The computer that we retired 2 weeks ago that his Skype used to run on came on Prime Day. And the mounts that are holding him in front of me were Prime Day mounts as well. But yeah, this year I didn't find anything that just screamed, have to have it today.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't a ton, but I did get one thing that was pretty cool.
Okay.
Do I have it around here? It may not be within arm's reach of me here. I'm going to say probably, well, I have the box for it. Where the actual thing is actually more important, but so I got this.
All right. Something from Anchor.
Yes, something from Anchor is always the right thing to get on Prime Day. So this is a brand new charger that does a 60-watt USB power delivery charger.
Okay.
That is really, really small. They just launched it for Prime Day, and it was on a sale for $36. So it does 60-watt USB power delivery, which is good because my laptop here takes USB charging, and I needed another adapter for it
Sure.
because of the situation that I ran into when I was in Taiwan this year, which is a great example of why everybody should have a USB-C powered laptop. So I was packing up for my trip to Taiwan, as I always do for Computex, and when I realized that, I left my my power adapter that came with my laptop at my office. You know, I didn't notice it because here my laptop plugs into a USB-C dock and charges that way.
Right.
Can't take the dock. The dock is huge. Can't take that with me. So, I took the laptop with me, and I had like a 30-watt charger that was good enough to charge it, but not really to use it while it was on. Or it would work, but it would give me this message saying like it has to throttle or something because it's not enough juice. But I sent email out to all my colleagues who were going, and one of my nice colleagues, Bill from Tech Radar, had an extra MacBook charger, and he let me borrow his MacBook charger for the duration of the trip, and the MacBook charger worked just fine on my ThinkPad. So, like,
hooray for standards, A.
Right. Yeah.
And B.
Right.
Hooray for a good colleague. And but you're not always going to have that convenience of a colleague with a compatible charger.
I mean, though what I could have done, but his charger was good enough, and he didn't need it back, that I didn't go out of my way. But when I was in Taiwan, they had places in like the computer mall that were selling chargers. Some I think the ones that would have enough wattage for this were quite expensive, like $50-$60. And since I had one, I didn't spend the extra money.
Sure.
But it stayed in my mind, hey, I could use another one. So when I saw a brand new one from Anker, which is a really great brand for chargers.
Yeah. Especially now that they've been going through all the proper certifications on stuff like Qi certification and stuff. You can actually guaranteed trust them again. Hooray!
Yeah, I mean I think I found it. Okay.
There was a short while where they were having some troubles, but okay, just a standard little Apple-looking brick.
It's really, really small.
Yeah.
If I had an Apple brick here, it would be significantly smaller than this.
Yeah, the Apple ones are like 50% bigger. That one's teeny.
All right. I mean, just to show you, here's my phone. For here's my phone for comparison.
Good scale. Okay.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty darn small. Like here's a mouse for comparison.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Nice.
So anyway, that's the main thing I got on Prime Day. That, and I got a micro SD card, another micro SD card, because I could always use one of those.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was thinking about, because this new mixer that we've got takes a micro SD card, but I didn't engage.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you need. Considering all the Raspberry Pi stuff I do, I'm always like losing and having like a slew of because the operating system is on a micro SD card, so you want to try one thing, you want to try another thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I got a 32 gigabyte card for $5.50, a Samsung one. Although this weekend I was at Micro Center, which is if you live near one of the 20 micro centers in the world, you should definitely go there, because it's the absolute best place to buy maker stuff. They have their own house brand of cards. 32 gigabytes is like $4.80, and I bought a bunch of 16 gig cards because for Raspberry Pi Project 16 might actually be okay for some of them, for $2.80 a card.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
Anyway,
that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Well, as as most of our viewers know, I spent last weekend at MetroCon with a couple of the 3000 Brigade cast members, which was a tremendous amount of fun. I always like doing 3000 Brigade shows. And the good news is, yes, we did another episode of the Special Toad Detective radio drama series. So that will be coming soon. It was a lot of fun. I think this might be my favorite episode. If you were around, you could have seen it live or participated. But yeah, it'll be out soon. As soon as Jason gets it back to me. But it was a good one this time. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. It's always fun having Aaron in town. So that was my last weekend. It was a long weekend. They are always a long weekend, but it was a lot of fun. I always like having Aaron around. But with that, how about we get down to some news? This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new phone, a new tablet, a computer, an Xbox One, either S or X, or a whole variety of other products, including controllers and Samsung phones or earbuds and all kinds of other stuff. You can find them all at the Microsoft Store. And remember, both students and military get a 10% discount on almost everything available at the Microsoft Store. And you can find all of that by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. All right, so unless you were living under a rock this week, you certainly came across somebody who was talking about FaceApp. Now, this product is not new. It is not the first time that it has become popular, but it is the first time that, since their big privacy policy changes, that it has become popular. And so, we felt we needed to talk about it because, as we've talked about most of the year, 2019 is our year of security and privacy focus. And so, this kind of violates both of those. So let's talk about it. The app, for those who don't know, is an artificial intelligence powered application on a server that takes, you upload a photo, it takes that photo, it does something to it. The thing that was popular right now was aging your face however many decades, and then giving you that photo back. Now, while that sounds harmless, let's talk about why it's not. First, like most apps like this, you give the platform the option, the ability to use your photo for whatever. And you also, under their new privacy policy, you also give them permission to sell that right to other people as well, which is always a questionable thing. But Facebook and Instagram have essentially the same privacy policy. Here's where this one becomes a problem. It is a Russian company and an artificial intelligence that learns how to make better fake photos the more photos are uploaded. And that is where our concern starts to arise, because we know that that Russian companies, whether under the thumb of the government or not, Russian companies have done all kinds of things with fake photos, fake videos, fake social media accounts. And so with this product, this company is training an AI to get better at making fake photos of people, which obviously is not an ideal situation for anybody. But in today's world, especially not for a Russian company who then has the option to license or sell that to somebody else.
Yes. Um, First of all, I saw a lot of people using
So
this
did I.
past week, and I really, some of them I was like I hadn't seen in a few years, and I was like, oh man, you really have gotten old. Um, then I realized they use the filter. Um, what happens if you point it at someone who already is really old? Does it just show like a rotting corpse or
Uh,
some dirt or ashes?
I saw I saw somebody just post a photo of a pile of sand and said, "This is what FaceApp gave me," which I thought was pretty funny.
uh, I mean, I mean, first of all, I don't want to look at that.
I'm with you
However,
there.
if they had one that made me if they had one that made me look young again, then we're talking. If they did for me like they did for Samuel L. Jackson in Captain Marvel, where he looks significantly younger than in real life,
Sure. Or
maybe that we could talk about.
or Tony Stark in Iron Man.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of de-aging stuff that's done in
Yeah.
the movie. Um, so yeah, if they want to do that, but yeah, I mean, it seems a little crazy to be giving the right to your face to the company, whether they were from Russia or not. I
True.
mean, that certainly makes it even more concerning.
Sure.
But let's not forget that Facebook also has abused that kind of stuff before.
Sure.
Um,
And this is it's very similar in concept to what happened with Cambridge Analytica, right? Which is a British company or something
yeah,
who
exactly.
who took advantage of a loophole in data rights to do all kinds of data mining that they weren't allowed to do. The same thing could happen here.
I'm very concerned about deep fakes. I
Yeah.
think deep fakes are going to become a really serious problem. If not already, they're going to become a much more serious problem.
Yeah.
So you're getting better and better at doing these things. You're going to be able to do deep fakes without a lot of data on someone.
Right.
Um, but it may not even matter whether you're a participant in this face app, because if somebody could grab your picture from Facebook or from LinkedIn or anywhere that you have a footprint online, then someone can probably do something with it.
That's true.
You know, they
And
can probably do something with it.
yeah, and doing a Google image or a Bing image search for faces is a good way to train an AI as well. But boy, if you can get people to upload various face pictures of themselves or others, that's just a ready supply of AI training, which it's literally the definition of a deep fake, right? Because it's using AI to create a false image of a real human being. That's what FaceApp is doing in this case. But it's doing it in a theoretically harmless way. But the idea that they're training an AI on how to do it better is definitely a concern for me. Because we talked
Yeah, no
we
doubt.
talked at the Orlando Regional, not this year but last year, with Dr. Woody Flowers, who is from MIT and spent decades with MIT, and he talked about how a year and a half ago it was already becoming a problem and the AIs weren't even good at it yet. They just needed more faces, and here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's gonna be a problem, and there's gonna it's going to cast into doubt everything that you think is true, right? I mean, like, so if you see a scandalous picture of a famous person, now they have an app. It works both ways. Either holy cow, someone could really ruin someone's reputation with this, or holy cow, someone could have a really legit picture and people not believe it because there's such good deep fakes out there that anybody can claim that something is a deep fake.
Yeah.
It'll become the new I was hacked. Remember there was a time, I think now it just doesn't go over so well, but there was a time for a while where, politicians or somebody who were caught saying something that they were regretted on social media would always say, "Oh, somebody hacked me. I was hacked." Then it would turn out that they weren't. I think that was like the big thing with Anthony Weiner and his scandal was that
he is absolutely the one I was thinking.
The first to come out and say he was hacked and then have to walk it back. But, again, people can, that's something that's something that's easily disproved. That's, well, through forensics, probably disprovable.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you think you were hacked. Well, here's proof that you logged in from here. But yeah, I mean, it's so it's frightening. My advice to people is don't do it, but I wouldn't necessarily say that the Face app is significantly worse than all those other things that people are using with the which is the one that has filters that make you look like a cat or a dog or whatever. Snapchat filters, yeah. Right?
Yeah, Snapchat. So. I would just like to point out, speaking of Snapchat filters, I would like to point out that once again, a government agency streamed a political meeting with the cat filter turned on. It was Singapore 2 weeks ago. It was the National Canadian Mounties yesterday. Totally unrelated. Favorite story of the week. But yeah, most of those are mostly about head shape more than anything. But there's the one that always drives me crazy with the little hearts around your head. That's not really why people use it. They use it because it actually like smooths your face out and like thins your face. So it's definitely I know. It drives me mad. Doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about. But yeah, their Snapchat filter is definitely using, is definitely doing real like face structure alteration. So it's certainly more advanced than the cat ears or whatever. But yeah, you were rubbing your head. I need to know why.
I want to deep fake some hair from here to here.
I was wondering if that's where you were going with that.
Yeah, I want to deep fake some hair.
Well, my guess is we could probably make that happen pretty easily.
Yeah.
Especially at this point. But anyway, yeah. I guess our warning here is the same as it is when we talk about the which Harry Potter house are you quiz on Facebook, or what 3 celebrities are you a mix of, or whatever stupid thing is the thing of the week. It's a lot of information you're giving up for absolutely no reason. My recommendation is don't do it. It's really not that much fun, and most of your friends get annoyed by it, so it doesn't even help there. So I think that's my recommendation. What do you think?
Sounds good. Don't do it.
Yeah. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. When you're browsing online, no matter where you are and what service you're using, a VPN is a great way to help you kind of obfuscate your browsing trends, whether you're trying to keep Facebook and Google out of your business or your ISP. A VPN can help with all of that, and we have got a deal for you on PureVPN right now. You can actually get 2 years of service for $2.88 a month, which works out to $69 for 2 full years of service, which I think is a pretty great deal. And you can get this offer by going to piltchpoint.live/purevpn. So, Avram, you have been working on a project for a little while, and I think we're going to get some progress shots, right?
Yes. So let's talk a minute. One of the cool things you can do with my favorite new toy, the Raspberry Pi 4, is and actually do I think a little more easily with older Raspberry Pis because there's more support out there, is make an emulator machine, make an arcade machine. So I've been working on testing something from the company Pimaroni, which makes a lot of really, really cool Raspberry Pi accessories. I think I might have shown previously their case, which is pretty cool. The Pibo case. It's like a rainbow color. And they also sent me, and I've been working on it. This. I'll show you the poster to show you what it will look like.
I love that it's a poster.
It's called. It came with a poster, so can we see?
That's cool.
The Picade. Let's get S.
I love that.
Picade. So it even looks like it comes straight out of Stranger Things.
Yes, it does. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Like it looks like, I mean, the lights, the colors look like it comes straight out of Stranger Things, or from that wonderful Kung Fury movie. Anyway, so unfortunately, my son and I have been working on it, and the instructions were a little difficult for us at first because we kept looking at videos for different versions of the Picade. This is the brand new one that supports the Raspberry Pi 4, and has a 10-inch screen. So here I have like the shell of it, and we're working on the part with the screen, and it should take 2 to 3 hours. I'm just confused myself by reading some of the older versions of the instructions and watching older versions of the video because I have the newest brand spanking new revision of it, which is a 10-inch, not an 8-inch screen. So this thing goes for around $200. Well, Pimaroni sells it for 195 pounds, but you can get it. You can order from their site in dollars, or Adafruit imports them. Although I'm not sure if Adafruit has this latest 10-inch model just yet. They may. So what's cool about it is it comes with the 10-inch screen. It comes with all the arcade buttons. It comes with the joystick. What it doesn't come with is the Raspberry Pi. So now this model here was made very specifically to work with the Pi 4, which means it has a slightly different connector because the Pi 4 uses micro HDMI ports for video out, and it uses Type-C for charging. So it has a slightly different connector inside, although otherwise you can get this for, I think, the Pi 3. I'm not sure you may even be able to use this for this one with the Pi 3. I think probably not. But one of the catches is that right now the Pi 4 is in a strange situation emulation wise. To understand where we're at, you need to understand how people do emulation on a Raspberry Pi, which is a very popular platform for emulation. People do a ton of creating old game systems. And as I showed previously, and I just happen to have sitting over here also, this is a system that my son and I made a few months ago that uses a Raspberry Pi 3B and runs a popular arcade emulator called RetroPie. And RetroPie has a nice menu, and it will do emulation of a lot of different systems, regular plain old arcade games, Ataris, Intellivision, ColecoVision, Nintendo 64, Commodore 64. It will emulate all that old stuff. The problem is they still haven't updated, even a month after it's come out. RetroPie still has, which is the most common emulator environment, still hasn't been updated for the Pi 4, still doesn't work on it. So if you were wanting to do something today, what would you do? Well, you could use an older Raspberry Pi if you had one, or you could download one of a couple of alternatives. So one that my son and I were using is called Lakka, Lakka. And they have nightly beta versions of it that come out. And so some of the beta versions now support the Raspberry Pi 4. Although my son and I were trying to work with one today and having trouble getting it to work. So it's definitely, the software right now is more of a challenge than the hardware. But give it, another couple of weeks, and I'm sure that RetroPie will be ported over to it, and whatever other systems, Lakka, for example, is a good one. Will probably start working better with Pi 4. But meanwhile, you can use something like this to put together the hardware, or you can build your own box with buttons. Or let's say you really don't care about having it look authentic and you just want to play the games. All you need to do then is take your Raspberry Pi, be it a 4, be it a 3, whatever software you're running on it, plug it, install the software on it, plug in a controller of your choice, and attach it to a TV, and it will play these games. You do not need old school arcade buttons and old school fight sticks and a dedicated screen to do it. Those are just really cool things to have. But as far as actually being able to play the games, you could play a lot of them on a Pi Zero W that costs $5. So, provided you attach a controller. So, that's the gist of it. Now, the question you may be asking is, where are you going to get the games? That is a complicated question because they exist in kind of a legal gray area. So some folks actually own old cartridges, and they've devised ways to rip them and turn them into ROMs that you can use. There are sites that host ROMs you can download. I'll leave that to the audience to find for themselves. But
which is of course for the best, because Nintendo has been very active about seeking them out and sending cease and desist. So we won't give Nintendo a bulleted list of targets.
There are, of course, but it's not only Nintendo stuff. I mean, obviously, there's just arcade games that you can play that have nothing to do with Nintendo. There's Atari 2600 games. So it really depends on what you're looking for. Now, there are a couple of, I think, open source, freeware arcade games that you can get. But, unfortunately, none of them are the games that people probably really want. It's not Dig Dug. It's not Pac-Man, so.
Yeah, for sure. Just for our audience's reference, as of airing, Adafruit only has the 3, not the 4 model. So you won't find the version that you have from Adafruit, so you will have to search a little harder.
Yeah, I mean, Pimaroni.com has all these things, although they would ship it to you from the UK, and it looks like their 10-inch display model is out of stock as I'm looking at it. But probably back in stock soon. When I get this finished, I'll be putting up a full article about it. We'll see how it plays. It's definitely not the easiest thing to build, maybe because the instructions that I got could have been a little better, and then looking at the ones they have online apparently for the wrong thing. But once I get it figured out, which I think I shortly will, it could be really cool. I think what I'll really judge it on is how is the gameplay? How's the screen? How's the joystick feel? How are the buttons? And from my experience, not all buttons are created equal. When I was building this thing, I tried a score of different kinds of buttons, and these green ones here feel fantastic, right? They really click. These lighted ones here, because I ran out of green ones and I wanted ones that were different colors, kind of stiff. So, not all not all buttons are created equal, for sure. Plus, they are using the type of buttons that you have to push through, not screw in. So I'll have to make sure those are good because. So like here I have, this is just a word to the wise here. So here I have a button that you have to push through when you're building your retro arcade. Now for something like the Piecade, it should be fine because the holes that they drilled the holes for you for the buttons. So they ought to be a perfect size. When I drilled my own holes, I found that these push through ones were never quite tight enough, and if I hit the button too hard, they just fall through into the box.
Far less forgiving.
So I really don't like this kind. If I were building, like, by the way, there's a lot of sets on Amazon or wherever that you can get of buttons, whatever. If for those who are thinking about doing it, look at the buttons. Do not get the buttons that have this type of pressure sensitive squeezy thing. Get the ones that have a nut on it that you screw to hold them in place, because those work really well. Whereas these, if your hole is less than perfect or you hit it too hard, you might push the button through. So this is the cheap kind.
Yeah,
anyway,
they're definitely less forgiving. The screw in place ones, worst case scenario, you make your hole way too big. You could always add washers or something to fix the hole size, which is not something with those pressure ones. It is perfect or it is nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, long story short, we'll be having more about this Piecade shortly on tomshardware.com, and there's a lot of cool retro gaming things you can do with your Raspberry Pi. And while the software situation, the emulator situation with Pi 4 is a little in flux right now, I'm sure it's going to be in a really good place soon. And the hope is that it will actually run emulators that weren't possible to run or didn't run well on the Pi 3. For example, somewhere there's a PlayStation 2 emulator. I'd like to see if I could get that running on it, because that's something that you really can't do. I think that really requires quite a bit of processing power.
Yeah, that would make sense. And with the new model having, the option for way more RAM, just that alone, the ability to have way more RAM would make, emulators slightly more powerful emulators more possible.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if it's the RAM itself that's going to make the big difference. I think it might be more having to do with, provided that the emulators are optimized to take advantage of this processor. But it's now I think a Cortex A72 processor, which means that it can do a much higher number of instructions per clock than the prior ones. So it ought to be significantly faster, and on many tests it is 2 to 4 times faster than a Pi 3B Plus,
which is significant. The 2 to 4 times is a significant change in performance.
But things still need to be optimized for the Pi 4 and its graphics GPU and things like that. So we'll have to see what shakes out.
Very cool. So obviously you're still in the build process on this, but when you've got it together, we'll see something about it on Tom's Hardware.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, as always, Avram, I love hearing about your project progress, because you managed to get yourself into some really fun projects, and I always like to see your progress shots. So thank you for that.
Always a pleasure. Wish I had it finished sooner.
I understand that. That's how projects go sometimes. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. All the accessories you need to up your game on both PC and console are available from Razer. There are all kinds of deals running right now. The Razer phone is actually, the Razer Phone 2, I'm sorry, is on sale right now. There's also a whole bunch of other deals on keyboards and mice and their whole collection. They've got, obviously, the keyboards and mice like I use here in the studio, but they also offer webcams and mouse pads and even full systems designed specifically for gaming. And you can find all of that by going to f5live.tv/Razer. So, obviously, we were off last week. And so, one story tried to pass us by, but they came back and sweetened the pot for us. So, we get to talk about it this week. Last week, Nintendo announced, finally, after several months of speculation, announced the newest member of the Switch family, the Switch Lite, which, while losing the majority of the things that made the Switch unique and interesting, definitely has a place in the ecosystem. The Joy-Con, the removable controllers off the side, are gone. The kickstand on the back is gone. The TV dock is gone. But what it does is it essentially finally puts the Nintendo 3DS and 2DS out to pasture and comes in at that $199 price point. That was the kind of the sweet spot for the 3DS for most of its life, and really fills that mobile gaming spot while bringing the modern games to mobile. Because if you've got a 3DS or a 2DS, you know you are not playing the majority of the modern games that have come out for the Nintendo ecosystem. You have to have the Switch for that. And so if you don't care about that home capability or the ability to take the controllers off, it's really about you playing on the go, then saving that $100 is really a great deal. So that was last week. And this week, to make sure that we were able to talk about what Nintendo's been up to this month, they also confirmed a new model of the Switch Prime, the regular Switch device. While not detailing what all the changes necessarily were, the big difference is going to be up to an 80% increase in battery life, which for anybody who has used the, on the low side, 2.5 and on the high side 6.5 hour battery, upgrading that to a maximum of 9 hours of battery life is significantly better. So Nintendo's definitely been listening to what the market was looking for from the Switch, and seems like they're delivering on it.
So I'd like the opposite Switch, Nintendo. I would like the one that can't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because my son really wants a Switch, and I know he's going to break it.
Yeah.
So I would love to have the Nintendo Stand Still or whatever, the Switch Heavy instead of the Switch Lite or something, that cannot be, that has no battery, that has no screen, and just connects to your TV and just connects to your TV as a box.
Just has the Joy-Cons as the removable part. It's the only part that's not connected to your entertainment system.
Yes. That I guess that's not so popular since people like the portability of the Switch, but some people like the Switch for the games.
Yeah.
They like the Switch for the games. Like my son really wants it because his friends have it, and they like to play Mario Maker, and he likes Mario Maker. So but there's nothing inherently portable about that.
Right.
You know. Meanwhile, we're gonna get him this $300 Switch. He's gonna drop it, and it's gonna like.
Yeah, and it will quickly become a home-only system anyway because the screen is gone.
If it continues working after that, then yes. But so that's kind of the thing. I think that would be nice. Plus, if they could make it more of a competitive price with the Xbox and PlayStation 4, which you can now get for about $200 each.
Yeah.
Which this Lite version is now in that range.
Right.
But clearly not a direct competitor to the Xbox or PlayStation because it's portable only.
Right.
So
Nintendo definitely ever since the Wii, Nintendo has been like, all right, we're our own thing. Microsoft and Sony, y'all can fight all you want. We're our own thing, and we don't care what you're up to. They definitely do not consider themselves to be in the same industry as Microsoft and Sony. They are their own marketplace.
They do it because of their exclusive IP.
Yeah.
And how the controllers and everything else just kind of cute in the way that people expect from Nintendo. Nintendo is sort of like the, I don't know, cute anime of consoles.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
So
because they're still
going to want it.
They're still heavily rooted in Japanese culture, whereas even Sony, who is theoretically a Japanese company, isn't really. You know what I mean? They've definitely adopted the Western ideals for gaming, and Nintendo's like, no, we're still us. You'll like us or you won't, and that's fine.
Right. So people, so yes, the Switch has been a great achievement by Nintendo after the incredible failure of the Wii U. You would thought maybe they were stumbling on their way out, and then this has become a revelation and created its own gaming category.
Mm-hmm. The fact
now,
that
the question is,
they had a huge history behind them. The company's either right at or right around 100 years old. A couple of bad quarters over the Wii U. I wasn't worried about them going away, but it was the first time in their corporate history that they were having quarterly losses, which is an insane situation from one really terrible console idea that two of our former co-hosts were adamant was going to be the best thing to ever happen to gaming. I'd like to be able to harass both of them today about it, but I can't. It's okay.
Well, what can you do? But that's so I mean, good for them. They're gonna sell a lot of these, particularly in time for the holiday season.
Yeah.
It fills a niche that they want to fill. So,
and it allows them to finally, after 8 years on the market, allows them to finally put the 3DS out to pasture, which, when you consider the capabilities of the Switch versus the 3DS, it's not even like a fair comparison. We were talking in the Piltch point about the Raspberry Pi 3 versus 4, and the difference between the 3DS and the Switch make those two look like identical hardware. I mean, it is unbelievable how different the 3DS and the Switch are.
You know what else I should bring on as a show and tell one of these times? It's in the other room because my son was playing with it. I also received a retro kit that looks exactly like a Game Boy. It looks exactly like a Game Boy.
You got one of those?
And yes.
I was literally reading about one this morning.
So here's the thing, and I really mean to write about it. I just blame myself for the problem with it. So it's again, the software is the issue, not the hardware. So I think it's called GPI or something is the company. They sent a couple of them to our office unsolicited. And it was really easy to put it together. You just need a Raspberry Pi Zero or Zero W, which I have stacks of.
Sure.
And it didn't take long to put it together physically. The problem is, once again, these companies make the hardware, they don't make the software. So what are you going to use for it? So RetroPie, which is the most popular thing around, is not really designed to be used with a single D-pad and I think it's like 4 buttons and a D-pad.
Yeah.
Right? 4 buttons, a D-pad, a select button, and a start button.
Right.
So a lot of the games get very confused when you're trying to play it. And like my number one problem that I've had with RetroPie that really annoys me and happens all the time on this thing because it doesn't have a ton of buttons is that you get trapped in a game and you can't get out. Like there's supposed to be a button combination where if you want to go back to the menu, you can hit like start and select and it'll take you back to the menu.
Sure.
But like more than half the time that doesn't work. And so you're like, oh, now the only way to change games is to physically turn the power off and reboot it. So
exactly like a Game Boy.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, yeah, because you had to switch a cartridge out, and you couldn't do that live. You couldn't hot swap the Game Boy cartridges.
The funny thing, I really should bring this on. There actually looks like a cartridge is removable, but what the cartridge is the Raspberry Pi. So, the cartridge is the container where you put the Pi Zero and screw it in, and then you pop it in, although there's no reason to remove it ever.
Right.
And then you pop it in, and then
That's
the case has like a battery container where you put like, I think 4 AA batteries, and it has the screen and the buttons, and
4 AA's. So they've really nailed.
It works.
They've really nailed what an original Game Boy was. You got to power it off to change the games. It runs on 4 AA's. They've really nailed the original Game Boy.
The power it off to change the games, though, is not the responsibility of the people who made it. It's the problem with the emulator system, which has been a problem on many machines for me, unfortunately. It seems that the best way to deal with emulators is to always have a keyboard attached with an escape key. But that's not exactly the experience you want when you've got arcade machine in front of you.
Sure. Well, the interesting thing about this topic is just how ingrained portable gaming is in the Nintendo history. Since they changed from being a card company primarily to being a video game company primarily, portable gaming has really been a huge focus for them because the Game Boy came out surprisingly not that long after the NES. Like, they were only a couple years separated. So, the idea that portable gaming and Nintendo are synonymous absolutely makes sense because we're sitting here talking about emulating the first Nintendo handheld 30 years later. So in this case, I guess it makes sense that they would stay on that portable trajectory with the Switch Lite. But I'm definitely with you. I would like to see a home version because I think you're not the only scenario in which trying to hide the console would be futile for home use. But at least they have listened. They've come out with a less expensive model of what they've got. And they've also fixed the battery life, which has been a huge complaint for regular users of the original. So good job, Nintendo, for listening to your fans. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by Riff Tracks. Make fun of movies, or let these guys do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities, such as, let's see, let's go with Soapy the Germ Fighter. Don't know what to do about that. My guess is that's one of the short films that are available. So the way it usually works is for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3, play it along with your DVD, Netflix, Amazon, wherever the movie happens to exist, and laugh. From time to time, they do live events. Their next live event, we knew it recently. I don't have it now. August 15th, the giant spider invasion will be in theaters nationwide. In addition to their full-length films, they've also got shorts, industry films, those terrible movies your teachers used to show you in elementary school when they didn't want to teach or whatever. They've got all of those. And to find out what full-length films, what shorts, and what theaters the live event will be available in, you can go to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. We've talked about it a couple of times. It's had its ups, it's had its downs, and it is officially over. It is Google's very controversial search engine designed specifically for China that was called Project Dragonfly in front of a Senate Judiciary Committee. Karen Bhatia, Google's vice president of public policy, said, "We have terminated Project Dragonfly." Now, the company claims that this should not be new information to anybody. However, in the past, they have said that they were not actively working on a product for China. They said that in March, but not actively working on and terminated are not the same thing. At this point, the project is dead. Employees have been transferred to other projects, and they are not seeking any engagement with China on this topic, which is probably a great idea because Google has had employees walk out. They have had an employee protest. They even had a 14-year veteran, which puts them probably in the early 20s as far as employee numbers, executive leave the company over this project, especially, and with all of the things that are happening between the West and China. Now's probably not the time to engage with a product that was designed specifically to censor things like human rights, democracy, peaceful protest, those types of terms. This is probably not the time for a Western company to engage on that. You know, they're already having trouble with whether or not Android is going to be allowed in China. You know, they're having enough problems right now. Terminating this is probably in everybody's best interest. What do you think, Avram?
Yeah, well, it doesn't sound like it's good publicity for them, and they don't really need the negative publicity right now. So, you know, that's a legit concern. On the other hand, from Google's point of view, somebody is going to service that market.
Right now,
somebody already is.
Yeah, right now it's Baidu that kind of owns China. The idea that a Western company coming into China with nothing new to offer, you know, if they're forced to have the same censorship and everything, was it going to be a success anyway? Who knows?
Yeah, hard to say, right? How are they going to compete? Well, Google does have name recognition around the world, so I guess somebody could say, oh yeah, Google, this is what they use in other countries. Little do we know that it's not really giving us all the results. On the other hand, though, I would hazard to say that Google does a fantastic job with its algorithms. So they probably, on the results they are allowed to show, probably give you good result, the best results you can get.
And you know, in fairness, to their brand recognition, even in China, you know, it was, granted, it was almost a decade ago. It was March of 2010. Google pulled out of China over this topic. In particular, they refused to censor their results, and so their decision was, we're out. So, you know, they existed in China, so people who have been on the internet for a while would have already recognized them as a search engine, not just the provider of the operating system for their Huawei or their ZTE phones.
But they do have a problem then with credibility if they come out with this Project Dragonfly, because it's like, hey, we said that we weren't going to do censorship, but now we changed our mind.
Yeah. It is a different regime today than it was at that time. Totally different people in charge of the company today, because that was before the guys came back. That was when, you know, Sergey wasn't with the company. So, you know, it definitely shows a willingness to change the corporate culture, not necessarily for the better, which I think is where so many of the employees took issue. Is you guys made a stand a decade ago, and now you're maybe we don't care about that so much. So yeah, I think that's where employees had concerns. You know, there was a congressional letter that was sent to Google over it. A lot of people had concerns. So I think we kind of all expected that this would be the end result, especially after that letter came. But it's here officially. So there we go. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We talked about it earlier, but there are all kinds of benefits to Amazon Prime in addition to Prime Day, which was this week, that you get. The first is Amazon Prime Music, which gives you several million tracks available to stream for free as part of your subscription. Then there's Avram's favorite Amazon Prime Video, which has movies, TV shows, documentaries, both original and licensed content available, again, as part of your existing subscription. Then there's my favorite, which is Twitch Prime. You get one free Twitch subscription, which you can use to help support your favorite streamer. You can use it to subscribe to PLUGHITZ Live or anybody else. You also get free games every month for your PC that you can, they're yours, play them, enjoy them. Lots of fun games. You also get a whole bunch of extras, including, a special tank for World of Tanks, and you get stuff for Warframe. And right now, if you are a Nintendo Switch subscriber, Switch Online, or if you're a Switch owner, whether you've had one for a while or you're just getting one of the new Switch Lites or the new model of the Switch Primary that we talked about, you can get Switch Online for a year for free. And we've got a 30-day free trial if you're not already a subscriber, and we've got quick links to all of these features and more, all by going to f5live.tv/prime. I'm not going to lie, when I go to Prime Video on the computer, I actually go through that link because I can not always find it easily. Anyway, a quick link is wonderful. Anyway, so let's stay in that arena of video streaming. Let's talk about Netflix that announced their quarterly numbers this week, which were not what they had hoped. They had expected actually to have subscriber growth of about 5 million new paid subscribers in the United States. They ended up with 2.7 million new. Their primary reasoning for this is the price increase that we saw go into effect during the quarter, and they believe that drove subscriber numbers, existing subscribers, to back away. So maybe their new numbers would be up, but their growth overall is down. But they also believe that their licensed content might actually be a hindrance to their subscriber growth. And here's the explanation. The idea is that they've done a lot of research, and they see that when they lose licensed content, including high-profile licensed content, that the subscribers that were actively engaged with that content go and switch to something else. They tend not to leave Netflix. They tend to just switch to something else, oftentimes over to Netflix originals. And so, engaging two topics at once, first being their subscriber growth, and second being the imminent loss of both The Office and Friends, both of which have been announced in this past quarter. The company said that the very large amount of money that they were spending on those contracts to have access to The Office and Friends and other licensed content was more than it was returning. And so that would return money into their pockets that they could use for Netflix originals, which we know the company has already said they're going to be more judicious about. And they confirmed that during their quarterly call or letter or whatever it was. Because, like we've talked about, for every Stranger Things, there's a girl boss. For every massive success like Bird Box, there's Gypsy. So, they've had some pretty severe flops in their originals because they were just throwing money after anybody who made noise in their direction. So they have confirmed that they're going to stop doing that and start being more careful with their money, and with things like Friends and The Office contracts coming up, they're going to have some more of it to focus on. So they seem pretty okay about the future. So, and that's a big thing with so many new services coming up to challenge their dominance.
Yeah, and yet they've canceled some shows that were pretty decent because they have some type of formula that says, I read this somewhere, that like they don't like shows to be on for more than 3 seasons and more than like 8 episodes per season. They've done some study about this. Now, granted, you expect the really, really high-end shows like Stranger Things will get a 4th season. But, Orange is the New Black got more than 3 seasons, whatever. But, they've killed some good shows. Like, for example, my favorite killed Netflix show, the Santa Clarita Diet, like after 3 seasons, because, that's it. We do 3 seasons and we're done.
Right.
And yet they're spending all this money on showing people like 90s reruns that they could watch on, I don't know, TV Land or something.
Right.
Like, I don't even understand the people who want to watch Friends over and over.
Yeah. Friends isn't one of my go-tos, but The Office is. It's one of the things I put on when I'm going to sleep because I know every episode, and so it's not going to distract me, but it's noise. The way some people put on music. I use things like The Office for that. But for me, switching over to the NBC streaming service is no big deal for the same thing. Okay, whatever. But yeah, for Netflix, the idea that they're really kind of leaning into the idea of, people are coming to us specifically today for our original content. The the Stranger Things, the Bird Box, the content like that's what's driving new subscribers, and they're leaning into it, but they're going to try to avoid big failures like Chelsea. They're going to focus more on critical and consumer successes like Big Mouth. I think that's a smart move for them to stop just throwing money out there and hoping it sticks. It's not pasta. So I think all of this is probably pretty good. Obviously, internally, they've got to be having conversations about things like the new AT&T Turner service, the new NBC service, the fact that Disney Plus is coming to steal all of their Disney, Lucas, Marvel, and Pixar stuff. It's a significantly stranger market today than it was a year ago, and it's going to be even stranger 12 months from today. And it's going to be way harder for them to compete. So trying to play the licensed game, why spend a whole lot of money and a tremendous amount of money? If you saw, I don't remember what the exact number was, but the last contract for Friends was ridiculous. There was no way it was ever going to pay for itself.
$100 million for a year.
Yeah, something like that. There was no way that was ever going to pay for itself. That's stupid. They're at an average of what, $11 a month for most subscribers. How many new subscribers were they going to have to get in the year to pay for that? Nuh-uh, not going to happen.
Also, who are the people who are like, I'm going to sign up just so I can watch Friends?
Right.
Couldn't you just, if you really like that show, which I do not, couldn't you just buy a box set of it once or something and be done? I mean,
right. There was no way that something like Friends was going to make your decision on whether it was Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon Prime Video that you were using. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Now, seeing the trailer for Star Trek Picard, that makes me want to subscribe to CBS All Access.
Finally, something that makes me want to subscribe to that one. Because seeing Data and Seven of Nine show up in the Comic-Con video trailer. Yep.
Yes.
I'm in. And the girl from the newsroom, who is obviously going to be an important character, and she's a great actor. I'm in now for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, they're going to have Riker and Troy in it, they said. So it's crazy. Yeah, you got to watch it. So
there was no way Riker wasn't going to be in it. He's an executive producer. There was no way he didn't end up on camera at some point.
Yeah. So they're gonna. Those are the things you do to get subscribers, not
exactly. So they're really leaning into it. They're going to focus on their original content, and they're going to start letting the big budget licensed content expire and let it go back to whoever it goes back to. And you know what? I'm okay with that. If they're gonna start focusing and stop throwing money at nonsense, which I think is important. I mean, there's a Family Guy episode about how for a while they were throwing money at any comedian that nobody had ever heard of to do Netflix comedy specials. They're going to start being judicious with their money and only produce things that they think are going to have good returns. What a concept. I think that's a much better idea than let's make sure we have The Office. Not that worried about it because the NBC streaming service is going to be free. So you know what? You're not going to have to make a decision on that. You're still going to get The Office, and it's not going to cost you anything extra. So you'll be fine. It's okay. I think that's a smart business move for them. And that is our show. thank you to those of you who joined us live. We had some people in the chat room tonight. We always appreciate that. If you did not join us live and would like to in the future, f5live.tv/join us, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You'll see the video and the chat room show up right there for you. But if you want to engage with us on other platforms, oh, excuse me, I got hiccups all of a sudden. If you want to engage on other platforms, there are links to that as well. And if you have joined us live and would like to listen again, you can always go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe, and there you'll see all of our shows, F5 Live, The Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, First Looks, New Product Launchpad, and a whole bunch more are all available there, including the 3000 Brigade Presents, which will have 2 new episodes going up over the next couple of weeks, which I'm very excited about. Both great episodes. So definitely check out all of that. And I guess with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next time. Ciao.